Okay, first lesson we're going to look at is bridge escape from the mount position. Before we even get to the technique, let's do a drill which is going to be used to execute the movement. It goes like this. You lay flat on your back. You're going to bring both feet in real close. You're going to elevate your hips by driving your feet to the floor. As you do so, you're trying to get your shoulder and head to the mat. Now, when I come over, I'm going to take my far leg, and that's the one that's going to turn over. I keep this leg on the ground the whole time, and I end up landing on my knees in a nice base here. Pretty much the most common mistake that you'll make is to lift your hip and then drop this leg, and you end up kind of on your belly. So what you want is both feet in, hips up, eyeball to the mat, far leg comes over. This side stays pushing into the floor as you build a nice base and land on your knees. So we're going to use that in all of these escapes that we're going to do right now. Now, the mount is obviously one of the worst positions you can be in because he can hit you in the face and you can't hit him in the face. That's why he wants to be there anyway. We're going to get to how to block the punches in a second, but we're going to go step by step through a couple of scenarios to help you get away from this position. The standard variation, the most basic way, is if he was to be grabbing my neck in some way, like choking me. He could be on my throat or he could be on my collar. It's going to be the same principle. Okay? So whichever hand he's grabbing me with, I'm going to trap that arm to my body here, and I go by the elbow. And the whole point here is he doesn't want to be able to move his arm and put it on the floor. So a good test is once you make your grip, have him try to place his hand on the ground. If he can do that, then you're not doing it correctly. So it should be like you own this arm right now. You're going to trap his foot on the same side that his arm is trapped by bringing your heel on the outside of his heel. This other leg you want to bring in real close, and the key here is you want to have your foot between his legs. You don't want him to be able to make a hook with his leg. This is going to make your move very difficult. So, foot comes between his legs. Now you're going to lift your hips straight up, just like you saw before, shoulder to the floor, and you reverse the position. Most common mistake, or some common errors here, is the grip of the arms. You leave your elbows too high and wide. Here your arms become very vulnerable for an attack, and it's going to be hard to do the movement. So when you make your grip, elbows in close, okay? The second thing is when you try to turn the guy over, it's really not a sideways movement. I'm not trying to throw him sideways. It's lifting him straight up first, which causes the off balance, you see, and then he goes over. One last thing that I'll say about the position that makes it much more effective is the timing of the trap of the arm and foot. If you synchronize those movements, it's a much better result. In other words, if he's grabbing me and I start going to control his arm, he senses now that I'm up to something, you know, so he might start bugging me and changing his position. So the idea is to go both at the same time. So now he has much less reaction time to defend. And that's kind of the point, okay? Okay. That's the basic variation. Second variation is going to be a little more tricky because now, instead of being high, far away, he's going to be low on me. He won't have as much devastating punching power, but he's got a lot better control of my body. So look here, his feet are hooked in, and he's hugging my neck, okay? So what I got to do here is I'm going to have to bridge him, but I need to pay attention to which side I'm going to go to. His hand is very extended this way. It makes it very, very difficult for me to take him that direction. He's got a good sense of balance. It's very easy to block. So I'm going to have to go this way. The problem is that he's got his feet really trapped around my legs, and every time that I go to lift, it's very tricky. You see how I stay hooked in right here? So what I got to do is keep this arm trapped to the floor by putting my head down, making it difficult. Can you pull your head out, or pull your arm out there? It's a little tricky because my body weight is now gluing his elbow to the floor in position. Next, I'm going to take my far leg out. My far leg meaning opposite of the side that I want him to go to. So it looks like this. If he's here hooking in real strong and tight, I stretch my leg, bring it close, and then drop it between his legs like this. The closer I come to my butt, the harder it is for him to rehook. You see? Now this far hand is very important. What I do is I go under his armpit, and I want to start pointing my finger where I want him to fall, which is over this way. Here his head is very heavy. But as I start to use my arm, his head is going to move in a line with my head, and now he's off balance. Now just a little bump, and he goes right over, okay? So that magic finger is very useful with this move. So neck hook variation. He's on me, yeah. And if he's on this side, obviously I have to change my direction. I can no longer go this way. So whichever arm he's hugging me with, that's the side I'm going to go to. I press down with my head, extract my far leg between the feet, shoulder hug, and point the finger, and then bump. Okay? Neck hug variation. Next one we're going to do. This one I really like for training with the gi. You take advantage of the grips and you really increase the leverage with the position. So with this one I tend to use it if the guy tries to make the type of a grab for my neck, right here. Okay? I'm going to go real slow. I'm going to go against his forearm and I'm going to push his arm against his own hip. Okay? So it's kind of similar to the standard variation. The only difference is instead of gluing to my body, I'm gluing to his body this way. Now, I'm going to still trap the foot on the same side. The difference is, before I was here on his elbow, watch this time. I'm going to go all the way around his body and grab the gi right here. There's generally some slack on the uniform. Your hand placement doesn't have to be exactly in one spot, just as long as you get a good grip. Okay? Now, foot comes between the legs just like before. I'm going to bump, but the difference is I'm going to add this pull with this arm, and my goal is going to be to glue this shoulder to the mat. And it's hard to see on camera, but he felt a big difference in the off-balance position. It's very hard for him to keep his chest square to block the rolling aspect of the movement. You're basically turning him like a wheel, and he falls right into the hole. So, once again, he makes a grip for my neck. I trap across the far side. Obviously, if there's no gi, it's a little bit different. But many times when you're training, you're going to have the clothing available. This is a nice variation. Grip the far side, the foot, and look, I'm pushing with this hand, pulling with this hand as I bump. And also, the added benefit is when you go on top, you've already got a good control of the person. So he's not going to be really, getting good grips on your collar and stuff like that. I'm already in posture, and I'm controlling the position once I get on top. All right. Now let's go for the granddaddy enchilada of bridge escapes. And this is going to be the most practical for street self-defense and the most important for mixed martial arts or just, reality. He can punch from this position. So before I was just worried about grabbing. So I have to immediately figure out a way to make myself safe. So the principle here is I want to close the distance between him and me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my hands on the ground to help me sit up, and I'm going to try to get my head as close to his chest as possible. This way. Next, I'm going to hug his body. Now, he can still hit, but it's not 100% power like he had previously. So you've closed the distance and you've changed the amount of damage he can inflict. Now what I got to do is I got to make his hands go to the ground. So what I do is I bring my feet in close to my butt and I bridge. Knowing that he's got two choices, bang his head on the ground or put his hands out to stop that. He's going to put his hands out, yes. From here, I'm going to change my grip to his shoulder and start scooting my body up. As I do, I keep my head up off of the ground, and I want to put my head right next to his head. Now notice, I have to choose like one side to go to. So my head, the side that my head is on is the arm that I'm going to try to trap here. So look what I do. I make a circle with my arm and glue it to my body here. Safety tip for the person on top. It's very easy if he keeps his fingers down to break his wrist or his fingers as I go over. So what he wants to do is turn his palm up to prevent the injury here. So I glue my elbow here, I take my foot, put it on the outside, and I still use a combination of the bridge and the magic finger that we did previously with the neck hug. One last thing is I got to make sure if this foot is trapped, this far foot is trapped, I got to get it out first. Then I'm going to point the finger, bump, and over we go. All right, let's look at that one again. So, distance, you might say, well, is he going to hit me while I'm sitting up? Well, yeah, probably, but he's going to hit you anyway. So, get the closeness of the distance as quick as you can here. So, I'm mounted right away, up, grab. Feet on the ground, push, till his hands touch the ground. Now, common mistake here is you leave your head down as you're trying to wiggle. You're getting blasted in the face here. So keep your head up. Hug the shoulder, wiggle. Take your time here. Get your head right next to his head. Trap the arm. Safety tip, he's got to have his palm facing up to avoid the break of the finger. Extract your foot bump and point that finger. Because still here, if he's leaning this direction, it's going to be hard to throw him over. But as I point that finger, and his head comes in line with mine, I gain control of the position. All right? So, those are the bridge escapes from the mount. Very, very basic idea, but hopefully with some advanced details that can help you make it more successful.